guys walked in, they looked like they were RoboCop. I mean, they were so heavily armed, and they looked dangerous.
The one weapon that we've identified can go through a bulletproof vest at 200 yards.
These are very organized, brutal bank robbery suspects. They're killers.
The North Hollywood Shootout. It is the story of a bank robbery that went very, very wrong. A surrealist holdup worthy of a movie scene, or should I say, worthy of an open-world video game. What happened in Los Angeles on the morning of February 28, 1997, was actually real. That day, two stout and heavily armed men decided to carry out an extremely brutal robbery, a completely botched theft that would soon turn into a huge shooting. Two robbers against almost 400 policemen, including SWAT members, all in the middle of Los Angeles and broadcasted live on television. With an impressive arsenal of illegally modified guns, the two robbers will indeed shoot anything that moves to try to get away from the crime scene. Civilians or...
Y'all trying to get away. Y'all never fucking went there. What the fuck do you mean y'all trying to get... What do you mean y'all trying to sweat anything that moves? What was the point of going to the bank, bro? And I got you. Bro, y'all think y'all don't get caught at the fucking bank? Like, out of everybody at the bank, y'all think y'all motherfuckers just not gonna get caught? And this y'all plan to escape is by shooting at people that moves? This story finna be juicy as hell, y'all. No Diddy. So make sure y'all go ahead and subscribe, man. Hit that notification bell too to be, notified when I drop on YouTube. I gotta stop saying no weird shit, y'all. I can't keep saying no Diddy, no. Feel me? I can't keep saying no Diddy, bro.
Policemen, nobody is safe from the armor-piercing bullets coming from everywhere. Some of their war weapons shoot 10 bullets per second.
What I mean is I ain't trying to keep saying that shit with y'all niggas, cause like I don't really care about that shit. It don't got nothing to do with me. But you know how the internet is, bro. So no Diddy.
Staggering and insane firepower for a bank robbery. On the other side, the police, having only handguns and shotguns with weak range to compete with, try to keep the bandits at bay.
You gotta realize this is 1997. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? 2024, 2025, you motherfuckers would have been got taken out, but this back then. So I don't know, cause shotguns, you saw they like, bro, how you got that bitch in your hand? Like, huh? Nigga, you not ready to fight at all. Like, you niggas ain't ready to go to war at all, bro. That niggas in the bank is, though. You niggas ain't ready.
But the bullets they shoot only tickle them, because, adding to their war weapons, the robbers also are equipped with bulletproof protection from head to toe. Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasuranu are the two.
These niggas came with a mission, y'all. Look at this, chat. I ain't, talking about nobody or really, discriminating, but these niggas robbed the bank, woke up, said, let's go rob a bank, thinking that they not finna get caught because it's 1997. So they had geared up their whole body, geared up. They like bulletproof. Like he mean like they top to bottom, bro. They thinking they can't get hit and like fall or get grazed or do anything because they got some fucking bulletproof shit on, bro. I don't understand why niggas rob banks in the first place. Like, ain't you going to rob a bank or just get the money, bro? Niggas going to rob a bank to crash out.
Two who were behind this insane robbery. Two guys keen on guns and bodybuilding who met at the gym in 1989 to then form a friendship rooted in hatred of society. Two determined robbers who didn't seem to be afraid of death and who, during almost an hour, spread a climate of terror in Los Angeles. We still don't know whether they came to rob a bank or make war. What is sure, they committed one of the most brutal robberies in history. So brutal that it is known today under the name of the North Hollywood Shootout.
Damn, imagine getting that call.
Thinking back to bank robberies in the USA, we think of the 1930s and the era of the John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, Pretty Boy Floyd, and Bonnie and Clyde. A period in American history.
Hey, John. Hey, y'all play a game called 007? Let me go and show you actually this game called 007. I don't know if y'all too familiar with this game called 007, but maybe some of y'all should know about this game. Let me go and show y'all this 007 here. This is exactly what this nigga look like right here. North John Dingler. Y'all see this? 1953. Oh, this is back around that time. This is back around that time. Babyface Nelson, Pretty Boy Floyd, Bonnie and Clyde. That was Bonnie and Clyde. So these the motherfuckers that? No, that was Adam and Eve that ate the apple. Okay. Let me see something quick, bro. Cause
where armed robbery was flourishing. The Great Depression struck the U.S. hard, creating an atmosphere of economic distress that led more and more people to turn to robbery. As a result, the number of bank robberies increased dramatically, to the point where some people refer to these years as the golden age of bank robbery. But fortunately, this trend was put on hold after a while, and the following decades were, shall we say, rather quiet in terms of armed robbery. The authorities had managed to put a stop to this incredible rise in crime. We thought it was all a thing of the past. But not at all, since bank robberies would make a resurgence from the 1960s onwards, more precisely between 1965 and 1975, when armed robberies climbed from 850 to almost 3,500 per year. A spectacular rise, you may say, but it didn't stop there. Yes, because the trend continued into the 70s and 80s, with 5,500 robberies in 1985 alone. The curve then kept climbing, reaching even more insane figures in the following decade, with almost 7,900 robberies in 1990 and 9,388 the year after. A real epidemic of armed robbery, with its epicenter in the far west of the United States, Los Angeles, the city that has become known as the national capital of bank robbery. An unenviable title, we may say. When it comes to attracting tourists, we've seen better. But believe me, the City of Angels deserved this distinction. In fact,
back then, these motherfuckers weren't wearing ski masks or icy masks. They got on fucking bags over their fucking head. Like, what the fuck?
In fact, you only have to look at
what y'all doing? Y'all going to the
rates
bank and
at
y'all
the
see a
time to
nigga
understand.
running towards y'all like that. Like, off the exit. You feel me? He ain't coming in because he already inside the bank. He going out the door as y'all coming in.
Remember when I told you that 1991 recorded over 9,300 robberies? Well, a quarter of that staggering figure came from Los Angeles County alone. Yep, 2,355 robberies in that single year. Worse, it's not even the highest total the city has ever recorded, because we still have 1992, when the peak was reached this time, with 2,641 armed robberies. That's roughly 7 bank robberies a day, or 1 every working hour. Just imagine. Moreover, there were so many of them in the 80s and 90s that Hollywood took an interest in the phenomenon, producing some of the greatest bank robbery films set in Southern California. Point Break, actually, released in 1991, and above all, the benchmark in bank robbery films, released in 1995, Heat. At the time, Los Angeles was suffering from an ever-increasing number of robberies. If the rates were alarming, what was even more so was the brutal violence with which gangsters operated during these armed robberies. Most of them were equipped as if they were going to war. Machine guns, assault rifles, bulletproof vests. It seemed that with this new wave of robbers, the end justified the means, and nothing could stop them from stealing the loot they had set their sights on. So much so, in fact, that some thought that if they had to kill, they would. What turned bank robberies into recurrently violent operations in Los Angeles was that famous robbery on September 5th, 1991. On this particular day, two men, members of a bank robbery gang well known to the police as the West Hills Bandits, enter a Wells Fargo branch in the Tarzana district of Los Angeles. Heavily armed and wearing masks, they paradoxically demonstrate a disconcerting civility when it comes to robbery. They gather customers and employees together, telling them quite naturally,
"Enjoy the show."
In less than 2 minutes, the establishment is robbed. True professionals, there was no doubt about it, and courteous too, since as they left the premises, they gave the hostages a cheerful,
"Thanks, everyone."
The two robbers left thrilled, with quite a haul in their pockets. $437,000, a record loot for the Los Angeles jurisdiction at the time, which would, alas, be mistakenly revealed to the general public by a bank employee, because it was from that moment on that things really took a turn for the worse. For among those tipped off were some of the city's criminals who were already licking their chops when they heard how much had been stolen. They now had proof that it was possible to make large sums of money by robbing banks in Los Angeles.
Hell yeah, y'all sweet.
Such was the case with Robert Sheldon Brown, aka
Yeah, they sweet as fuck. Nigga, they robbed y'all for $300,000. Y'all is sweet. Dog. Sweet as fuck.
Casper, a prominent member of the Crips gang, who figured that robberies might indeed be a good business idea. Within weeks, he sent dozens of armed teenage gangs to rob the city's banks. These kids, often as young as 13, would wreak havoc on any bank they passed. Unlike the West Hills Bandits, who were polite and meticulous, these kids were nervous, undisciplined, and above all, extremely violent. The Baby Bandits, as the FBI came to call them, would appear in the banks firing bursts of bullets at the ceiling, when it wasn't at themselves or their accomplices. When they attacked, no one was spared. Sometimes tellers were needlessly beaten with rifle butts, or hostage customers had their wedding rings brutally ripped from their fingers by the Baby Bandits. So of course, their amateurism disserved them, to the point where they were captured in droves by the authorities. But the more they were captured, the more Casper sent new ones. Teenage gangsters were a common sight, and Casper was never short-staffed. So, thanks to his army of Baby Bandits, he was able to commit over 175 robberies, more than any other person in U.S. history, and not take part in any of them.
Damn.
If Los Angeles earned the title of bank robbery capital in the 90s, you can be sure it was largely due to him. Just like the sudden rise in violence committed during these same. And even though Robert Sheldon Brown would later be arrested, others would follow in his footsteps. Like these two young men, who had no doubt watched too much Heat, and who in turn tried their hand at bank robbery with equally extreme and gratuitous violence. Two guys who were none other than Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu, the perpetrators of the North Hollywood shootout. We're in the mid-90s, and the heyday of armed robbery seems to be over. The number of robberies in Los Angeles is drastically dropping from 2,641 during the peak of 1992 to 749 the following year. The main reason? The leader of the Baby Bandits was under arrest in 1993. This arrest gave the LA police a breath, at least until 1996, when another group of robbers appeared. The duo we're interested in, featuring Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu. But let's take a step back in time to get an understanding of who these two men were. Larry Phillips Jr., of Mexican and Italian descent, was born on September the 20th, 1970, in Los Angeles, into a family not like any other. His father, Larry Phillips Sr., had several run-ins with the law during his life, which didn't make his son's childhood any easier. It is said that it was his father who encouraged Larry Phillips Jr. to take the road of delinquency by projecting onto him his hatred of police officers. According to Larry Phillips Sr., this hatred began on his son's 6th birthday, when FBI agents came to his house, guns drawn, to arrest him. He said,
Larry hated cops because of what they did to me. He knew that every time I came into contact with police, something bad happened.
Another version says that the father would also have influenced his son during mountain trips, which would have created in Larry an aversion to law enforcement, a hatred that would follow him all his life. Later, his parents divorced, and Larry lived with his mother, even though his father continues to see him and plays a role in his life, taking him to try his hand at firearms at shooting ranges. These sessions instilled in the young man a real passion for weapons. At 13, he dropped out of school. Yes, because what interests Larry most is money. He wants to get rich quick, and he's determined to do it by following in the footsteps of his idols, some of whom were big names in white-collar crime. According to Larry's half-brother, he was motivated by nothing more than money and power.
Larry wanted to live the American dream, but he decided to go about it the wrong way. He idolized the wrong people.
Then came the inevitable. On September 2nd, 1989, Larry committed his first crime, a theft of $400 worth of suits, for which he was arrested and tried, and which brought him a 3-day stay at the police station. As the months went on, he found himself in legal trouble again, this time because of illegal real estate activities, fraud to be precise, a crime for which he will be sentenced again. But Larry doesn't seem to learn his lesson and keeps on persevering. His thirst for wealth, coupled with the resentment of society's rules, only grows. Sometimes he would take his half-brother to the richest parties of the city to motivate him, as he put it. In particular, he would tell him,
Why don't you visualize yourself in that house? The reason is, society tells you you have to do a 9-to-5 job until you retire at 65.
Wealth is what drove Larry Phillips Jr. A bit like bodybuilding, another of his passions that he practiced diligently and which led him to meet the second protagonist of the North Hollywood shootout, Emil Matasareanu. Gold's Gym in Venice Beach is where Larry and Emil first met. Larry, a bodybuilding enthusiast, has been dreaming of becoming the new Arnold Schwarzenegger since he was a teenager. So he puts
But you want to be the robber banks.
his heart and soul into it, reading a plethora of books on the subject and training regularly. Unfortunately, not everyone can become a bodybuilding star. Genetics playing a large part, Larry realizes that his dream will remain forever out of reach, and puts an end to his ambition to become Mr. Olympia. This disillusionment doesn't prevent him from remaining disciplined in his training. However, Larry continues to attend Gold's Gym until the day he meets another regular who is also passionate about bodybuilding and firearms. Emil Matasareanu, of Romanian origin, was born in Timișoara, Romania, on July 19, 1966. He was the only son of parents who decided to leave Europe in the mid-1970s and settle in the United States in Los Angeles. Like Larry, Emil had a difficult childhood, but for different reasons. His classmates regularly mocked him for his Romanian accent and for being overweight. This constant harassment prompted him to spend much of his time at home in front of his computer. During this period, he developed a passion for firearms. He managed to make a few friends, but never kept them for very long. He was a socially maladjusted young man, as his mother describes him. At home, tensions flare as Emil's parents begin to argue more and more. Divorce was around the corner, but Emil seemed to be coping with the situation for the time being. He continued his studies, taking a 3-year course in electronic engineering, graduating in 1987. Sometime later, he opened his own IT business. His mother wanted him to continue his studies, but he was determined to enter the business world and start earning money. His parents' recurring quarrels and pressure he was under gradually weighed on him, leading to a series of temper tantrums, such as the time he threw a chainsaw in his neighbor's face because his dog had dared to walk on their lawn.
Damn.
Computers and guns are no longer enough to relieve Emil's stress, and neighbors often see him on the front porch cleaning his guns. The need to channel his anger leads him to another passion, which initially causes him to lose over 100 pounds, but also leads him to meet his future partner in crime, Larry. The story takes place in 1989 at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, Los Angeles.
All right, y'all, we gonna pause it there. 16:53. I'm gonna do part two tomorrow sometime. I don't know, bro.